Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fine and you guys are having a wonderful day as well as you're staying safe. Today is April 10th and I have an interesting video for you. Let me just put it away. I have not only the Magic Keyboard as well as the Magic Trackpad. So these two are the best accessories that you can get for your MacBook, iMac, Mac, everything for the Mac world, as well as now slowly transitioning into the iPad world as well. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick unboxing of both of these items. And then I'm going to come back a couple weeks later and I'm going to give you my honest review for these two items. And then I'm going to share with you if you should buy this or if you should wait. And over the couple of days that I'm going to be testing these two out, basically I'm going to use both of these items to do normal things like browse the web, create documents, final papers for my college, and I'm going to be editing my video using these two items for Final Cut Pro, and then I'm going to be editing my photos using these two items on Adobe's Lightroom. So what I will do is I will leave different time codes up here for you to check out to see if you don't want to watch the unboxing. It's not going to be a detailed unboxing, it's going to be a really quick unboxing. So you can understand and see what's coming out of the box when you are planning on purchasing these items. And I think the Space Gray is kind of like the Apple tax. Both of these items are $149 each. However, if you go for the Space Gray option like I have, you're going to be paying $30 extra, so they're $179 each Canadian. I'll leave a price up here for the US dollars as well. And once again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content, as well as it really helps the channel grow. And I'll leave my social links up here somewhere for you to follow those, as well as both of these items will be located down below in the description. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the keyboard, then I'm going to take out the trackpad, and then what I'll do is I'm pretty sure both of these items have a certain percentage of battery already charged. So I'm going to pair them up with my MacBook Pro, which is on the left side over here. And then that way you can see how the pairing process actually is. So let's get started. Let me start off with the keyboard. There's two different keyboards that come with, that you can buy. There is this Magic keyboard with the numeral keys, and then the other one is like a normal keyboard or still a Magic keyboard. But I did prefer this one because of the arrow keys. I prefer having normal arrow keys. And then this is sometimes nice. I do use the numeral keys once in a while. So let's take this out. So as always, I really like Apple's packaging. Looks really sleek, looks really professional, looks really nice for the packaging. It's a plain plastic bag over here. Once we lift that up, I'll put this to the side. First of all, we'll take a look at what comes out of the box. And it's actually really interesting. I wasn't expecting this. So this is actually a black lightning cable as well. Let me zoom in for you. I was thinking it's going to be one of those white lightning cables. So this is actually a black lightning cable. Pretty interesting. As well as your general manual. So to take the keyboard out, all you got to do is take this off. And there we go. So at the back, it's your basic Apple logo, and then a couple of rubber stoppers. And then we have our keyboard up here. Looks pretty nice, feels pretty good so far. Very similar to the MacBook Pro keyboard, so really nice. And then if you want to turn it on, it's up here on the right side to turn on and off. You have your one lightning port. Really disappointed. I was hoping for a USB-C port for both of these devices, but I'll get to that later on in the review as to what's going to be happening in the future with these devices. So let's take out the trackpad. So here we go. Here is the trackpad. And once again, the same thing like the keyboard is over here. A plain plastic wrapping underneath. Once again, black lightning cable to charge your trackpad. So once again, at the back, it's your basic Apple logo up here. A couple of rubber stoppers, but also a nice rubber surface. Can't really feel the haptic feedback right now, because it hasn't turned on yet. Similar setup to the keyboard up here, you have your lightning port and then your on and off keys. And what we'll do is we will pair both of these devices up with my MacBook Pro. Okay, so now that we're back, I'm actually recording my screen on my MacBook Pro 2019. Really nice MacBook. I really like it. So let's turn on the keyboard first and we'll take a look at see how it pairs up. So the first thing you got to do is you got to make sure that before you turn this on, that your Bluetooth is actually turned on your Mac OS device. Cool thing about the keyboard, it works with your Mac, iPad, as well as your iPhones as well. So we'll turn on my Bluetooth. I'll open up my Bluetooth preference. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly power this on right here like that. So it's turned on. Now we just gotta let it detect on my thing and boom, right there, it's already up here. Let me just bring it up here so you can quickly see that it's here already, as well as on the top right corner. So we're gonna click connect and it's connected really fast. Quick and simple. That's where Apple kind of succeeds compared to the other manufacturers. And let me see if I can actually see what my percentage is. So yes, you can actually see the percentage. It's at 73%. So that's decent coming out of the box. So I'll leave this here. Now the next thing is going to be our trackpad. And let's see how quickly it picks up here. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, boom. So let's see. 1, 2, there it is. So 3 seconds for the trackpad to connect. Once again, all you got to do is click connect and both of these devices will be connected. Boom, done. And yeah, it's already working perfectly. What I would recommend is, and you can hear the haptic feedback working now. Once you have paired it up, what I would recommend is you just go through the settings like the keyboard over here and the trackpad, just to make sure everything is up to your standards and your customizations. And like I mentioned, so it's April 10th right now. Let's go forward and review both of these devices and my personal recommendations if you should buy this and if you shouldn't. All right guys, so welcome back. So today is April 26th and I've been using this trackpad and this Apple keyboard, which I'll bring up over here, for close to 16 days now, and I've been able to test it out fully and actually use it for heavy day use, for editing, writing blogs, creating content on Instagram and YouTube. And this is actually my honest review of these two devices. So before we begin, if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. So in this review, I'm going to talk about what I liked about these devices, what I didn't like about these devices, and my recommendations if they're worth it to purchase, and if I'm actually going to be keeping these devices or sending them back to Apple. So let's get started with what I liked about this device. So let's talk about the keyboard first in terms of what I liked about it. Overall, the keyboard's been really comfortable to type on for, writing blogs, also browsing the web and stuff. I haven't experienced any issues where the keys were sticking, because there were some issues with the previous MacBook Pros that had, similar key structure where those keys would stick. I didn't experience that at all. The rubber on the bottom of the keyboard was actually really good. It prevented the keyboard from sliding around. And it's actually super easy to pair with an Apple device like my MacBook Pro. All I had to do was turn on the Bluetooth on my MacBook Pro, the keyboard, and it popped up. I didn't have to go through any intensive setup. Now that extra landscape for having those arrow keys separate and the numeric pads separate away from the keyboard is actually really worth it, and I highly recommend that you purchase the extended keyboard rather than the small one, because I do find on my MacBook Pro sometimes those arrow keys are a little bit tough to use. So if you can afford it, definitely get the one that's bigger with a numeric pad on the side. Now, overall, the keys are very similar to my MacBook Pro. Didn't have any troubles transitioning from my MacBook to these keys. I know sometimes when people that use chiclet style keyboards transition to a MacBook Pro, it's completely different. The keys are very similar between the MacBook Pros to the keyboard. So after using it for 16 days, my keyboard today has a battery of 86%. So that's actually pretty good. And I haven't turned off my keyboard during the entire time. So it's been on the entire 16 days. I've been leaving it on when I turn off my MacBook, I've been typing on it. I've rarely used my own MacBook's keyboard because I kind of want to test it out to its fullest potential and see how it is in terms of a long-term use. So the next thing I'm talking about is the trackpad. So I was going to purchase this trackpad a couple months back, but I actually got some wrong information when I visited my local Apple store because an employee told me that the trackpad is actually smaller than the trackpad found on the MacBook Pros. But that's actually wrong because it's actually the same size as a trackpad found on the MacBook Pro. So overall, I've really enjoyed using this trackpad. I absolutely love it. It's exactly like the one that I have on my MacBook Pro. It's big. It's able to use all the gestures that I've learned over the past several years on my MacBook. And the haptic feedback is also really good. Similar to the keyboard, it paired up right away. There wasn't an intensive setup involved. I did have to make some changes to the settings afterwards because I did find the haptic feedback to be a little bit too strong coming from my MacBook Pro. And similar to the keyboard, it stays in its place. It's not like going around all over the place on my desk. So after using it for 16 days nonstop, and I haven't turned it off, the battery life on my trackpad as of today is at 45%. So you can kind of guesstimate on how often you will be charging these two devices. So once a month for your trackpad, and once every 2 months for your keyboard if you decide to go with these devices. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you like this video. It really helps me out as well as grow the channel. So on to the things I didn't like about the keyboard and the trackpad, and I'll start off with the keyboard. The one thing that I absolutely did not like about this keyboard, and I really hope that Apple kind of works with this, is there's no Touch ID on this keyboard. Having a MacBook Pro from 2017 to 2019 and using Touch ID for close to 3 years, I've gotten so used to it that I forgot how beneficial it is without it, because once I transitioned over to this keyboard, I found it really hard to use basically any website because I would have to go there and I would find myself kind of going to the top right of the keyboard, you know, because in my mind I know that the Touch ID is on the far right corner on my MacBook Pro, but it's not on this keyboard. So what I would be doing is when the password prompt comes up, I would find myself transitioning over to my MacBook Pro using the Touch ID and then coming back and using this keyboard again, where you're able to put in your login password, and that's like kind of like the one password that uses for your key access. But once you've used Touch ID, going back to entering the passwords, it's really hard. So I really hope that when they do come out with a new version for this keyboard, they change that up and kind of enable Touch ID on the keyboard. Maybe remove one of the function keys. There's 19 function keys on this. I'm pretty sure people can live with 18 function keys and having one Touch ID on the far right of the keyboard. So the next thing that I didn't like about the keyboard coming from my MacBook Pro is how low it is to the surface or your desk compared to the MacBook Pro, because I know the MacBook Pro has a little bit of depth with the battery and the laptop itself. Now going to the keyboard, my hands and my wrists were really close to the table. For me it was completely fine, but I know that if somebody has some issues with their wrist or their hands, if you're using this for 8 hours a day, sometimes even 12, you will start to notice that on your wrists and it's going to start hurting. So you might want to invest in one of those like gel wrist supports for keyboards. But then again, if you get one of those, it might be a little bit weird because the keyboard is so low compared to your MacBook Pro or even the trackpad. So that's one thing I didn't like about the keyboard. To be honest with you, it felt kind of fragile compared to the MacBook Pro keyboards. When you lift it up, when you're touching these keys, they do feel really fragile compared to those MacBook Pro keys, which are a little bit more sturdier. And I'm kind of afraid that, you know, I might break these keys if I use them for a very long time, or if I'm using it for, you know, more than a year or two. I have a feeling that these keys may break down. Let me know if you've used this keyboard for quite some time and what's your experience with these keys. Now, similar to having the keyboard so low to the surface, there's no option to raise this keyboard to a higher level, and this keyboard is very, very low to the surface. So there's a very good chance that if you have some wrist problems from using your traditional keyboards, you might experience the same thing on this keyboard as well. So you kind of have to pay extra for the space gray color. I simply don't understand why they're doing this. So it's $149 US for this keyboard, but if you get the normal white one, it's $129.99. Kind of interesting. So let's jump over to the trackpad. To be honest with you, there's nothing that I didn't like about this trackpad except for the fact that you would have to pay extra for that grayscale color. Now, if I'm really nitpicking both the keyboard and the trackpad, they still run on lightning ports. So if you have to charge your keyboard again, you have to use a lightning cable, which is kind of sucky. I kind of wish that Apple transitions to the USB-C, because a lot of their products are stuck between lightning port as well as USB-C. So hopefully there's a refresh coming for 2020, maybe 2021, where they have a USB-C port for these two devices. So before I jump into the worth it part of both these keyboards, let me know what you think about these keyboard and this trackpad. To be honest with you, if you have the money, then yes, it is worth it. In terms of the keyboard, it doesn't offer anything special. Simple keyboard, it has those Apple signs. You're not going to get any gestures out of the keys. When you're talking about the trackpad, it's completely different, because there's a lot of gestures that you get on an Apple trackpad or mouse that you won't get on a third-party mouse. So in terms of the trackpad, definitely worth it if you utilize those gestures. However, you kind of have to pay those Apple tax, because it's expensive compared to a budget-friendly options, which I'll be leaving in the description underneath the subscribe button for you to check out. So like I said, there's a lot of great budget-friendly options for both keyboard as well as not a trackpad, like a good mouse, which you can use with your MacBook. So if you are looking for a new keyboard or a mouse and you don't want to spend that much money, which is close to $300, I'll leave a link for, great options for trackpad as well as mouse down below for you to check out. So before I transition on to if I'm going to keep these devices, make sure you subscribe. So over the 16 days that I've gotten used to these devices, I really like them, and I've been growing to focus on the benefits and kind of forget about the disadvantages of both of these devices. But I'm not going to keep these devices for several reasons. And the first one is my MacBook Pro is great and it's powerful, but I've been eyeing at an iMac or an iMac Pro to kind of have like a desktop environment, which is a little bit faster than my MacBook Pro, where I'm able to just sit down, focus, and work, and kind of use that as a secondary monitor, which is going to be a little bit faster than the MacBook Pro. So when you do buy an iMac or an iMac Pro, you kind of have to buy a keyboard and a mouse. Now, what you have the option for is you have the option to substitute the mouse and those small keyboard for the trackpad, as well as the keyboard with the numeric keys. Now, with the option to substitute the mouse and the small keyboard for these two devices, it's definitely worth it to wait, because if you want to get these two devices substituted, it's going to be another $80. But if you buy these devices separately, it comes out to $300 or $299.98 to be exact. And when I bought these two devices, there was no option to purchase Apple Care Plus. So in case something happens to either the trackpad or the keyboards, or the keys break or something happens, I'm kind of out of luck after that 1 year coverage from Apple, or 90 days, whatever it is. I'll leave it up here for the correct amount. And then you kind of have to pay out of your pocket. And if there's any issues with battery after the year, guess what? You kind of have to pay out of your pocket. But after talking to an Apple rep over online, he said if you purchase these two devices with the iMac Pro or the iMac, then you do have the option to purchase Apple Care, which covers everything out of the box, including these two devices. So those are the two reasons why I am going to be returning these two devices. And I'm going to be waiting for the new iMac that's going to be releasing in June, because the iMac is really, really old and it definitely needs a new refresh in terms of, having like a bezel-less design, a little bit more storage, a little bit more RAM. So I'm hoping that this year they kind of revamp it and bring out a new product, hopefully still able to be upgraded outside of Apple with the RAM similar to the iMac 27-inch model. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this unboxing and review video. Let me know what you think about these two devices. Does this video change your opinion on both of them? Are you still going to purchase them? Personally, like I mentioned, I'm going to be buying an iMac. It doesn't make any sense for me to buy this, wait 4 months, and then get another keyboard and a mouse, which I kind of have to sell on eBay or Facebook. So for those reasons, I kind of have to return these two devices back to Apple. And I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. I'll leave my social media links such as Twitter and Instagram for you to check out, as well as I have a brand new podcast called Tech Talks with myself, Mike. Check that out as well. So thank you very much for taking the time out and watching these videos. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.